Welcome back, friends. We are here for another episode of the Whole Life Vitality Podcast with Adam Brooks.
It's a pleasure. I should warn the audience real quick that I've been fighting a cold, so I might sniffle in your ears. I apologize.
You know what? It's just ASMR. Maybe people like that. I don't know. Do you like the sniffle? Do you like ASMR? Do you get into ASMR?
Not even a little.
Not even a little bit.
When people try and give me chills, it makes me uncomfortable. I feel like they're exercising too much control in my life.
Oh, interesting. That sounds like a PTSD response.
It probably is.
Yeah.
Yeah, chills meant something growing up. And
apparently not in a good way.
Well, in a very controlling way.
Yeah. Like tickles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not so much like tickles, like chills were a confirmation tool used to determine whether something was correct or not.
Yeah. How is that different from the heebie-jeebies?
Totally different from the heebie-jeebies. Heebie-jeebies are uncomfortable. The chills are supposed to be like comfortable.
But I feel like they feel really similar.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I mean, it's like excitement and anxiety.
Ooh,
they feel
are
really, really, really
very
similar.
closely related.
The only difference is your, mindset about them.
Right.
So then
Chills
chills
versus
and
heebie-jeebies.
heebie-jeebies.
Who knows?
I'm like, if you're afraid, you're like, oh, I got the heebie-jeebies. But if it's a good thing, then you're like, oh, I got the chills.
Ooh, that gave me chills.
See?
It must be real. It must be true.
See? And on that note, today, Adam, you had a really interesting podcast topic for us. What are we talking about?
So I've been thinking lately about movement patterns.
Okay.
I was reading through a book way back, and I went back looking for it in preparation for this and couldn't find it. But it was describing different storytelling patterns.
Okay.
And how some people will tell a story in a circular fashion. So they'll start with outer information, and they will circle to the most important information. The longer they talk, the closer they circle to their most important point. Some people will tell a story by going from one point to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, and occasionally branching off and coming back from that main trail.
Okay.
And some people will tell a story in what feels like or looks like a bunch of rabbit trails splitting off of each other and meandering and occasionally perhaps coming back to the main trail. And I was thinking about that and how that's kind of what different people's movement patterns look like as well.
Okay.
That people tend to move like they would tell a story. They tend to pursue an activity or work towards an objective in similar patterns to what they would probably use to tell a story.
Like some people are linear with it and some people are bouncier.
Yeah, so
kind of all over the place.
I played Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom for like 300 plus hours because
Okay.
I got really, really big into it. And it's this big, huge open world. And it's kind of like living real life in that there are some big objectives and some small objectives. And you have to travel around to do them. And there are different ways you can get around. And if you follow the story, then it takes you from one objective to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. But my favorite way to play that game is to start the game and immediately set off cross country and climb over walls and get up to really high places, climb trees, get on top of mountains, and look around for things that I'd like to do, and then go in that direction.
So you did not follow the yellow brick road.
No, I didn't follow the yellow brick road. I didn't follow the main quest objectives. Occasionally, I would think, I really need to get something done. And so I would look at the quest objectives and then I would set off cross country to accomplish one of those. But usually staying off of main paths and fighting lots of enemies and, it's disjointed, right?
Okay. So my context for video gaming would be like Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
Same kind of idea?
A little bit different. Oregon Trail is played in a really linear fashion.
So you can't really go off
guided.
the trail.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, was there ever a point in Oregon Trail where you were like, I'm going to do something that's completely not in the storyline?
I don't know. I mean, sometimes I would hunt when it didn't necessarily say it was hunting time.
Oh, okay.
I'm such a rebel.
Such a rebel.
I don't know. It's been a long time since I played Oregon Trail. I was probably, 10 or 11.
So I have seen a few people who will play video games in the fashion that was designed to be played, right?
Okay.
So they'll follow the steps and they'll follow the steps all the way through to completion in the manner in which the game was designed to be played. And then I've seen some people who will just take a completely different approach, and they'll say, they'll like playing Hogwarts Legacy. They'll say, I'm going into this knowing I want to be a dark wizard. And
Okay.
so they won't go through it as if they're the hero. They'll go through it as if they're the anti-hero, right? But I have a really eclectic way of playing in which I basically just set out cross country and, collect
whatever the
stuff
heck you
and
want.
do stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because people do stuff like that in real life.
Yeah.
Where maybe they start their workday with a set of clear objectives, or maybe they show up to the place where they work and they start doing things and it doesn't look like they're getting things done. But what they're actually doing is they're starting lots of small things, and then later on in the day, maybe they'll come back around and finish all the small things.
And it seems like everything is half started.
Yeah.
Everything is halfway through or just touched.
Maybe to somebody who has a more linear thought process, they look at that process and they say, I have no idea how you're getting things done.
Right.
And the person who's getting all the little things set out to start on them is setting out piles and starting to collect things and starting to, just touch here and there to get things moving. And then at the end of the day, it's all finished and it's been a really productive day, but it didn't look like it to the person with the linear thought process because it wasn't all in line. It wasn't clearly laid out. It wasn't goal oriented.
Right.
It was a little bit eclectic and a little bit haphazard and,
Yeah.
a little bit more chaotic.
So you and I are both pretty neurospicy. Like we
Right.
got all sorts of stuff happening up in the noggin. And I am married to someone who's a little more neurotypical.
Right.
And I have always cleaned my house in exactly the way you described. Like stuff literally gets dumped out first, or, like this one thing will happen in this room and I'll pick it up and I'll walk to another room and I'll see something that needs to happen in that room. And I am like a ping pong ball bouncing all over the house until finally at the end of the day, somehow miraculously, everything ends up getting cleaned. And I think it makes him crazy. And also,
Or at least it did.
Or at least it did.
Hopefully he's come around.
20 years later, I think we've got it figured out.
Right.
But for myself, even as someone who is, more neurodivergent, I can go through this whole day of getting all these things done and then look back on it and be like, whoa, did I do that?
Yeah.
Did someone come in and clean my house? Like, hang on, how did that happen?
Was that even the same person?
Right.
So I think that what you're describing ties into an important point that I had written down that I thought I wanted to touch on here. And that is waiting for the optimum dopamine before beginning or pushing through a task.
Interesting. Okay.
So for somebody who's neurodivergent,
In a positive way, as
In
in
a-
like
in a positive way.
It would be a good thing to wait for the dopamine before starting.
a good thing to wait for optimum dopamine from the project.
Okay.
So I can imagine that you've probably run into this before, that you will think to yourself, this is a task I need to do and I want to do it and I don't want to do it yet. And then there comes a point in the day or the week or the month when you think, this is the moment, I'm going to do it now.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly fulfilling. But if you are pushed to do it in the non-optimum moment, then it's more
Yeah.
difficult and it takes more effort and it feels harder. It feels like you're struggling through it. And for anyone who is either recognizing this in themselves or beginning to see it in someone else, I think it can be really helpful to understand that people who are more neurodivergent find an optimum moment to get things done, and it's not always on a schedule.
Oh,
It's
gosh.
on an internal clock.
Sometimes it's 2 a.m.
Sometimes it's 2 a.m.
Yeah.
There were times early on in my business where I would have a couple of big projects to do. 2 cars with engines that needed to be pulled and switched, right?
Okay.
One that I bought from an auction that was wrecked and had a good engine, and one that belonged to a client that was in beautiful condition but had a bad engine. And so I needed to take both engines out and swap them, right?
Okay.
And the optimum
Sounds
moment...
like a really big job.
Yeah, it was pretty big. The optimum moment ended up being 6 o'clock in the evening, working until 7 o'clock the next morning. Because
Dude.
that was when I had the dopamine for it. That was when it was going to be really fulfilling for me to do it. And so I just spent the night pulling a couple of engines, swapping them across, putting them back in. And the next morning I went home and slept and came back and felt really good about what I'd accomplished. Because sometimes the optimum moment, the optimum dopamine isn't on what looks like a logical schedule. Sometimes it just happens.
Yeah.
And it's not always programmable.
So say if I were to have a laundry list of to-dos
Yeah.
and deadlines, and I know that I need to get them done, but I just don't feel like it.
Oh, that's an interesting point. You know, we touched on this a little bit a while back where we were talking about gaming the system. And
But if we wanted to, if we're saying I'm just going to always wait for that optimum dopamine, then ideally, yes, like ideally you would be in that optimum zone. Like I
Right.
know when I am in that zone, like you can feel it. Like
It's
it
a
just
flow.
it is a flow, man.
Yeah.
It feels good. It's almost like a high. Like you're just riding this high through getting all the things done, and that feels freaking phenomenal.
so my best advice, if someone feels like they exist in this space and they feel like it's hard to get started on tasks because they have trouble getting to that flow state, is to start lots of tasks, to lay out the ingredients for lots of tasks, and then to chase the one that's working.
Okay.
Because I think that the movement of starting to lay things out will get you moving towards accomplishment, and that starts to feel good. And then finding the one that feels like it fits feels good, and then chasing it for a while feels good. And if you start to burn out on it, maybe pause and switch to another one and chase that one for a while, and then make sure that at the end of the day, the last burst of effort is to finish them all up.
Yeah, finish them all up or put things away or
Yeah.
just somehow close out that loop.
Yeah, close the
because
loop.
you do get that whatever's left of your dopamine reserves, you will tap into those by finishing out, and that helps things feel really nice too.
I think there are probably lots of different struggles in this idea. One may be that it's hard to get started.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, maybe taking small steps. If you need to clean and it's hard to get started, maybe kick something closer to its destination.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
that's fine.
Sometimes I walk through my house and I pick stuff up and I just throw it towards whichever room it belongs in.
I cleaned my yard that way the other day.
Right?
I literally just walked through the yard picking up sticks and tossing them closer to the stick pile that I was going to burn later.
There you go.
Yeah.
Like, and then you slowly wind up with a pile of things closer to where it's supposed to be. And even the separation of like categorizing things like that helps me. Laundry, oh my gosh, the laundry is like the bane of my existence, right? Because it just never ends. You know, I hit that point where I'm like, oh, finally the laundry's done, and then something gets thrown in the laundry again, and then here we go again, right?
cyclical.
Around and around and around.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. The other day, I had, the big laundry basket full of clean clothes, and I'm staring at it and just staring at it and staring at it. And I really didn't want to do it. And so I told myself, you know what, it's fine. I'm just going to sort it.
Oh, okay.
I'm just going to sort it.
First step.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
going to sort it. I'm like, oh, those kind of like categorically go together. So I'm just going to sort it.
The funny thing is you tricked yourself in that moment
Oh,
because
100%.
what you really didn't want to do was do the whole thing.
Yes.
Because that felt like too much.
Absolutely.
But you're like, I'm just going to do step one.
Yep.
I'll just do step one.
Just going to sort it. And so I sorted it all out by making a ginormous mess, by the
Right.
way. I
Yeah.
sat on my floor and had like 20 piles in front of me from sorting this laundry. And then I was like, okay,
I'll just
you know
do
what?
one pile.
That pile is just really easy to do. All those things go together. I don't even have to fold them. They just go in this bin.
I'll just match my socks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Just one thing at a time. And like what you were saying, we have talked about hacking that system before, but I think it is so important to come back around to that again and again, because whether you are neurospicy or neurotypical, these things still apply. Sometimes you just don't feel like it.
Well, and do you remember a little while back, there was that, I don't remember who it was, but there was somebody who published a book and the whole trick to the book was 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just do it.
Mel Robbins.
Was that who that
and
was?
she wrote the 5-second rule, and it's
Okay.
a fantastic book. Yes.
And so sometimes you just need a little bit of a trick to push you
Totally.
into step one.
Yep. Yeah. The concept was by counting down, you're giving your brain that point of completion. when you're counting up, like our parents, like, oh, you're going to get in trouble. I'm going to count to 3, 1, 2, 3. And you're like, okay, congratulations. You can count to 3. Like, how far are you going to go? You're going to count to 4. Can you count to 5? Come on, you could do it.
Yeah.
But when you're counting down, you're reaching that point of completion. And so then your brain's like, okay, something's supposed to happen. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Like that, the next thing is supposed to happen there. And so your brain actually is looking for that action step.
Also, the countdown is the first step.
Exactly.
Yeah, the very first concrete step in a process would have been to count down to starting the process.
Yep.
And then you take the next step and the next step and the next step. And I imagine there are some people who feel like they get paralyzed in taking that first step or the next step or the next step. And I think for me, the most powerful tool facing that paralysis is to pivot.
Yeah.
To pivot to a project that's easier or lighter or more fulfilling.
Something that seems, less heavy.
Yeah.
Something that seems less heavy. And sometimes maybe I already started so that it's closer to completion. Then I can get closer to that dopamine and that feel good of, oh, I did something. I accomplished something.
Also, I think it's useful to have a project that's standing and a project that's sitting and a project that's high intensity and low intensity. A project that you do when you're feeling high energy and a project that you do when you have to rest.
I like that.
Because there are going to be things that you can usefully do when you are low energy.
Yeah.
And that can be fulfilling and that can check boxes for you and that can give you dopamine and that can make you feel like you're accomplishing, but you're doing them while you're resting. I mean, if I need to match my socks today and it's an easy thing, but I need to sit while I do it, then maybe you reserve it for a time when you're really exhausted from doing something else. Yeah. And so then you sit down and you match socks and you watch TV.
I outsource my sock matching.
Atta girl.
I have children.
Nickel a piece.
I absolutely pay them to match socks. Or I say, take all of your socks from the bin because if you have socks left in the bin, they're going in the trash.
Oh, threats.
And I'm like, that's fine. That's totally fine. I will happily throw away all of the mismatched socks or all the socks that you don't take.
And you're like, we'll just buy new socks. It's fine.
Because laundry, I tell you, but I think that's also an important thing to note that, pick your battles. Like pick the things that you're willing to do, that you have the time and the space, the capacity to handle, and pick what you have the ability to outsource. Yeah. Like what do you just despise, but maybe your significant other is like, oh yeah, I can handle that. Or, maybe it's worth it to not go out to eat twice that month so you can hire someone to come in and
do your laundry.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a really powerful tool. There are things that we are good at doing and that don't cost us very much, and they will provide us with resources that will allow us to outsource.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
I'm really good at fixing cars. And
you are really good at fixing cars and lots of other things, actually. Very good at fixing things.
There are things that I don't like doing that I'm really happy to pay people to do.
What do you not like doing?
Sometimes I really don't like to cook.
Oh,
and
yeah,
so
I feel that.
I'm really interested in having money from my other more successful endeavors in those moments to be able to pay somebody else to cook for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I met my husband, I told him, he asked me at one point, if I like to cook, and I said I don't cook. I never actually said I can't cook.
Right.
I said I don't cook. I said, but I can bake. Because I do. I love to bake. Like baked goods. Oh yeah, absolutely. Like bread, cookies, cakes.
Plenty of sourdough.
Muffins, plenty of sourdough. Absolutely. Yeah. Like baking I can do. And when I say can, I mean like my brain has the capacity to enjoy that process.
Right.
Like I do it, I complete it, and then it doesn't just like disappear in the moment. It's a baked good. It sticks around.
Also, it seems like it provides you with meaningful rewards.
Oh, totally. I give it as gifts.
Yeah.
I show my love through these yummy baked goods, but cooking, it's just not my jam. It's a struggle for me.
Yeah. Some days it's hard. So what do you think about the concept of ADHD body doubling for getting tasks done?
Okay, so interesting that you bring this up because your wonderful wife, Zoe, called me last week. I think it was last week. And she said, what are you doing today? And I said, I just have digital work to do. Today is my digital day. I'm going to sit in front of my computer and handle my business today. And she goes, great. Will you come over and body double, like just be in the house with me, be in the space with me while I clean the house because I just really don't want to do it. And I was like, oh, absolutely. Heck, yes, I will, because I know that feeling. I know that feeling there. The first time I experienced it, or that maybe I was aware that I was experiencing it, I was a teenager and we had a girl who lived down the street. I say down the street, around the corner. We lived in the country. We lived in the middle of nowhere. There was nobody there, but she was a couple years younger than me. It was Ellen.
Oh, yeah.
And I was old enough to drive and she was not. And so I would call her and say, hey, Ellen, if I come pick you up, because we both homeschooled, we had that flexibility. If I come pick you up, will you come over and just hang out with me while I clean my room?
Right.
And I mean, I'm pretty sure she was bored.
I mean, homeschooling is incredibly boring.
And also homeschooling in the middle of nowhere where there's not really like other things to go and do. You know, there's not stuff to get plugged into. So I picked her up and she'd come over and I would get it done. And even now to this day, I'm like, I will give myself a carrot. I'm like, this person can come sit with me, or we can do side-by-side work, or I'll listen to a podcast or an audiobook, or even turn on a show, like a TV show in the background, because I feel like I'm not doing it by myself.
Yeah. Hope used to do that when she was in college. She would sit down and she would turn on a show and she would hang out with her favorite people from the show while she worked on homework or an art project or whatever else she was doing. And it didn't occur to me until just this moment that that was body doubling.
Because it's body doubling when you don't have somebody else you can call that is just available all the time. Thank you, Ellen, by the way.
Yeah.
That's available all the time, who will just come over and sit with you, because that is rare, I think. You know, people are busy.
Yeah, people are busy, and it's probably rare to have the kind of friend that you can just call at a moment's notice and be like, hey, will you come over and hang?
Well, is Ellen younger than you? Are you guys the same age?
I feel like we're pretty close in age.
Okay, so then if I was 16, she was maybe 13
Maybe,
or 12?
Yeah, 13 or 14.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe, okay. So maybe 13, maybe 14. So I'm just saying, like at that point, when you're homeschooled, you live in the middle of nowhere and you're 13, you don't really have a whole lot of commitments.
Right. Or a whole lot to do. Well, and at the time, the internet wasn't nearly as fast and there, satellite didn't have a whole lot of really good options for television. I mean, it was basically Cartoon Network or Disney, you know?
Movies.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. DVDs.
Yeah.
VHS.
Netflix DVDs. Do you remember that?
That was after I moved out.
Oh, it was?
I was already moved out when Netflix. Nope. Yeah, I think so. I think mom and dad started getting Netflix videos after I was already gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was after.
Dude, now I feel really old.
Yeah.
Am I older than Netflix? You're older than Netflix.
We're both older than Netflix.
We're both older than Netflix.
We're older than so many things.
So many things.
I was not the internet. It existed prior to us, but not in any major way.
Only kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Only kind of. It existed, but it was like cell phones existed, but they were like the size of a small house, you know?
Yeah. So the big touchback for me on all of this is if what you're doing doesn't look productive, but it's getting things done, then it is productive.
Yeah.
And if it feels like you are getting things done in a nonlinear fashion, that's probably okay. And if you're working with someone and you don't understand their method, but they're getting things done, it's probably okay too.
So what I'm hearing is we can give ourselves the space and the grace to let things look like how they need to look like for us to best function as our highest selves.
Yeah. And hopefully we can give that space and grace to other people as well.
Yeah.
People that we work with, people that we share space with, people that we come across in the daily whatever.
Well, we're less likely to be able to give it to other people if we can't give it to ourselves.
I don't know. I've done so many things for other people that I have not been able to do for myself.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So
I just mean grace.
Right.
Like,
do you give yourself more grace than you give others?
Oh, dang it. Okay.
Yeah, you set yourself up for that one.
I really did set myself up for that one.
Because I feel like I am way more patient with people I don't understand than with myself.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe let's just turn it around and give ourselves the space and the grace that we give other people.
So I'm on the Finch app. My kids got me into it.
If you guys don't know what that is, it's
pretty fantastic.
So fun.
Yeah.
And not just for kids. It is a self-care app that you can put daily tasks into.
Little tasks.
Yeah, little tasks. I mean, like mine are set to like get out of bed, brush your teeth, do your hair,
drink
step
water.
outside, drink a glass of water. Exactly. Yeah. Like easy tasks, but you get to grow this little like finch bird and be friends with other people, and it's a free app. It's very fun.
So one of my tasks this week is to say something nice to myself the way I would to a friend.
Dude, me too.
Yeah.
Totally.
We could be goal buddies.
We could be goal buddies.
We could be goal buddies.
We should be goal
But
buddies.
in that, I was thinking I am probably more patient and more understanding with friends and close acquaintances
Yeah.
and family than I am with myself. I have kind of higher expectations for myself than I would for someone else.
Even if somebody was in your business as much as you were in your business.
Can you explain that?
Okay, so I spend 24/7 with myself.
Right.
And I feel like I have a lot of space and grace, a lot of space for people that I don't know.
Sure.
Maybe-
You can assume the best about total strangers
I can
very easily.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more frustration or a little less space for people who I feel like I know a little better, because I'm like, come on, guys. Like, okay, I can give you space, but like there's a line, like there's a balance with it. And then with my children or my husband, I'm like, we have this history,
Yeah.
and we have an understanding. And so I'm like, we already know each other. You already know me. I already know you. We already have this understanding of how things work. And when you step outside that,
Ooh,
then
they know the rules already.
right.
Yeah.
And so I feel like the people that you are closest to get the least, and you are like full-time 24/7 with yourself.
Right. You're the closest to yourself.
You're the closest to
So
yourself.
do we get the least of anyone because of that rule? Maybe we could refine that.
Maybe that's a whole podcast for another day.
Yeah, we should probably touch back on that.
Right?
Maybe we
Because-
should make some life changes and then come back.
There you go. Maybe we can spend this week saying nice things about ourselves to ourselves.
Right. Find some enlightenment.
That's right. That's
some
right. And then come back.
self-actualization.
But for real, guys, if you have figured this out, if you have already like mastered this, please let us know.
Weigh in
Oh my
on
gosh.
how to be self-kind.
Yeah. And actually, if you have mastered this and you would like to be a guest on our podcast,
Come on.
we'll
get another microphone.
We would love to have you, or virtually. You don't even have to live close
Oh,
by.
yeah.
We can virtual.
Skype.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we can video call.
Skype. Do people still Skype?
I have no idea.
People Zoom.
Definitely Zoom.
People Zoom.
Lots of Zoom.
Is Skype still around?
I think it's still, I'm not going to look it up. But yes, I'm sure it is.
Probably still
Yeah,
around.
I'm sure Skype is still a thing.
Oh my goodness.
But I remember when Skype was brand new and we didn't have good enough internet for it. So I could
Yeah.
only use it for really like patchy audio calls
Yeah,
because we didn't have enough bandwidth for video calls.
dude. So let's bring it back around. The topic for today, after we totally neurospicied this entire thing,
Movement patterns.
movement patterns.
Recognizing movement patterns and working with them instead
Yeah.
of fighting against them.
And on that note, just for myself, as you were talking earlier about the movement patterns and how some people, just follow the path and some people kind of bounce all around, I was thinking, wow, following the path just sounds really boring.
Right.
But that's not the case for everyone. For some people, following the path seems really safe. Following the path
Right.
seems
Comfortable.
secure. Seems comfortable. Seems,
Yeah.
it gives them they're like, no, it's okay. I know the next thing that's going to come, so I can prepare for it.
Some people really prefer to drive on interstates because there are regular gas stations and restaurants. Right? Some people
Yeah.
prefer to stay off the interstate because there's more interesting stuff to look at.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah.
So which
Movement
are you?
patterns. Yeah,
Which
weigh
are
in.
you? Yeah.
What does it look like when you're accomplishing?
What is your movement pattern? Are you a turtle? Are you a hare? Are you a ping pong ball?
Do you stay in a small contained space and
Yeah.
occasionally reach out?
Yeah.
Because that's okay too.
Yeah.
All movement patterns are useful,
Absolutely.
but recognizing what you do, how you do it, and then working with it to accomplish what you need to, really powerful.
Really powerful. Just like we talked about before, we called it hacking your brain or hacking your dopamine, but it's just learning who you are, learning yourself, and then learning how to function as your happiest and healthiest self.
It's like learning the controls to a phone or a keyboard or a computer or whatever else. It's learning the functionality and using it.
And if you're curious, then you pick it up and just start pushing buttons and figuring it out.
Right.
And if you're afraid, then you don't touch it.
Or maybe you sit down and read through the instruction manual, memorize it, and then use it powerfully. Like there are all different ways of doing things, and each one of them is fine,
Yeah.
as long as it's actually getting things done.
That is so true. That is so true. Yeah, we would love to hear from you. We would love to know what your take is on this one. If you agree, awesome. If you don't agree, awesome. We love it when people come back with differing points of view. So
Definitely let me know if we missed something entirely.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, weigh in.
Yep. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, hit the bell. Make sure you get your notifications. You don't want to miss a single episode.
Hang out with us next time. Let us
my
keep you company while you fold your socks or something.
While you fold your socks. Totally. We'll cheer you on.
We will. We'll body double for you guys.
We'll see you next time. Bye, friends.